answer is yes. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, a person will be alone in a mountain area or in a valley and call the adhan, and all the angels will come. Anytime that a person calls the adhan, all the angels and the Muslim jinn will come and pray with him. Okay? They will come and pray with him. And anytime a person does any dhikr, Quran, salah, otherwise allowed, the angels and the Muslim jinns join him, and this is in Sahih Hadith as well. Yes? Yeah, a woman by herself won't call the adhan, but she will call the iqamah. Yeah.
So if you're only women and not even a child of 10 or younger to call the adhan, so can a woman call the adhan?
No, a woman's not going to call the adhan. Yeah. The voice of a woman is, if it's in a melodious, it becomes awra. Like, and adhan is melodious, right? Question, yeah.
For example, you're putting in a public place, you don't really want to disturb classes. Can you go to university? How loud?
That's a good question. It is prohibited to pray where others will be disturbed. It's prohibited to disturb others with the prayer, right? So the prayer should not be something, I'm going to pray, I got to pray, I'm praying. No, you're not allowed to pray in exits, in front of doors, roads, anywhere people need to walk. You become a source of disruption. Yeah. Huh? If that's a situation, then it should be done, but if there's no choice, but it should be planned in the future, right? So the prayer should, and also, we know that the Quran says, today people are really touchy about Islam, like really touchy. And you never know how people think because of the information that's out there, some of it misinformation, etc. And the Quran tells us, don't curse false gods so that they don't curse your God, right? So likewise, anytime that you have people who are agitated, we should not allow deen to agitate them more if we have control over it. So for example, if someone's really angry, you shouldn't say, calm down because the Prophet ﷺ said don't get angry or something like that. He's so angry, he might actually end up cursing the deen because of you. So as much as possible, we should make sure not to agitate people who are already, and they're agitated doesn't mean they're all guilty. They could be agitated, like if you're in the position of many people out there and all the news that you see about Muslims is bad, you probably have the same opinion, right? You probably have the same opinion. So we should be considerate and not have this attitude like, I'm Muslim, I'm going to pray wherever I want. No, because you're dealing with people who are actually just innocent. They have opinions that are negative without being really malicious. It's just what they're being fed. So therefore the prayer, when we do it, we have to make sure it's done in the proper place, right? Especially if you're in airports and things, that you should look for the chapel or ask someone, right, where to pray, so that they don't realize, oh my gosh, he's having his last testament, right, before he takes this all down, right? Yeah. The adhan is always a recommendation, not an obligation. It's always optional. Yeah. Come again? On the airplane, you have to pray sitting down. But of course, though, if the prayer time comes in, you have to combine in the airport so that you can fulfill the obligation of standing up. Because the problem is that we're stuck. We have to pray sitting down in the airplane, and there's even fatwa permitting that, but other fatwa saying you have to make that prayer up. You pray it and you make it up just in case. Because standing up is an obligation of salah, and your travel was voluntary, so you voluntarily put yourself in a situation where you couldn't pray properly. So some of the scholars actually say that pray on the plane sitting down and repeat the prayer when you get off. Yeah. No. If you're in a restaurant or in the mall, can you pray sitting down? The answer is no, because that's not a heavy burden. You can go to a fitting room, or you could go home, or you could leave. Like, you have to do shopping at that hour, right? All these things that we do aren't really excuses to skip the prayer. So you should base things, and we only get in trouble in the winter, right? The winter time is the only time that you get in trouble, because the prayer times are so close that if you go out at the wrong time, you're going to get stuck in traffic and miss the prayer. So you got to be aware of that, and you got to find little nooks and crannies, right, to pray. All right, you got that? Yeah. You can't face the qibla in the plane. The question is, how do you face the qibla in the plane? You can't, right? So you have to pray out. That's why they said, pray it. You're not going to be standing up. You're not facing the qibla. So repeat it. That's what they say. That's what some people, scholars say. Some will give it permission. Yeah.
When can you combine prayers?
Combining prayers, we'll get to that when we get to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you just said that we shouldn't tell about Islam to an agitated person. Likewise, we shouldn't force the person who is dying to say kalma or...
It's the same thing. Yeah, you shouldn't force them. Yeah.
They might end up saying something...
That's true.
And then...
And it's also, when someone's dying, you don't tell them say la ilaha illallah, because he might be too sick to say it, but you would think that, oh, he's cursed or something because he can't say it. All right, now let's get to the second sunnah, is as much as possible to pray together in jama'ah. It is extremely important, and it's part of the socialization of the community. What does it mean to be socialized? What does it actually mean to be socialized? It means, right, that there are certain things that are not written in the law, right? But it's known amongst all of us. How? Because we all agree, if you bring in 50 people in a room and you ask them about certain behaviors, that they'll all agree that certain behaviors are weird and they don't like it, right? So that's what defines normalcy, and certain behaviors are good. So the defining of what is normal, right? So certain types of normalcy is all established by socialization. And socialization in Islam, right? The way that Allah brings people together is through the prayer, okay? It will force a person to come in and mingle and mix with people, okay? So there are certain things that are not normal behavior, right? And when you're mingling with people on a regular basis, you learn what is abnormal behavior. Talking too much, complaining, smelling bad, okay? That's actually makruh. We have a religious ruling on that. Being weird, like what is being weird? Like in Islam, we actually promote something called urf, or normalcy of behavior. We don't promote you to be some kind of weird person and people read and say, oh, Albert Einstein, I want to be like him, he was so weird. Or Steve Jobs, he was so awesome, but he was so rude and dirty, right? I want to be like that. No, we actually don't promote for people to be oddballs. It's no good. It's going to harm you in the future, right? It's not cute. It's not funny, right? And how do we do this? By socialization, right? Coming to the prayer, and the prayer is the glue. So in your household, the prayer as much as possible should be done in jama'ah. And at least a regular Muslim, at the minimum, once a week to come to the masjid to pray. At the minimum. That's what the modern Muslim life, at the very least, you're going to pray in your mosque at least once a week, right? And higher than that is better. But so the goal of praying together is that people start to learn the urf of righteous Muslims. What is the normal behavior? Why? Because a happy individual is an individual with social support. I have emotional support, and I have a lot of support from a lot of people. I'm never alone. I'm not alone. This is the first step to mental health. You want to look at why there's so much mental unwellness and people are emotionally, right? They have issues, they have emotional situations, mental instability. It's all because a lack of social support, okay? Now, you can only have social support when we all have a common understanding of what normalcy is, right? What is normal behavior, okay? So if Ali comes in and he's pierced his eyebrow, I'm like, and he's telling me, well, this is me. It's not going to happen when you constantly meet people, right? And you see all this oddness and this weirdness, okay? Because there's no socialization. And when you have a society in which everyone's definition of normal is just out in left field, how can we ever come together on anything, right? And that's where Shaitan's plan for human beings is to separate them. Separate them. So you can never come together. And what did the Prophet say about the lone person, the person who's alone all the time? Well, yeah, Shaitan hunts him down and gets in his head and convinces him, right, that normal is something totally different. So this is because I was asked the other day by a high school kid, and they said, well, what really is normal? What does normal really mean? Normal means, for us, get 20 Muslims who pray in a room, whatever they agree on is normal, right? Clothes, way of talking, right? All these behaviors and manners, it's just what we agree upon, okay? So that's what socialization is, and salah, ma'al jama'ah, is the best. Okay, wherever a Muslim goes in the world, you find the masjid, and you start attending that masjid to pray at the minimum once a week, right? Really, that's the bare minimum. Let's go to the next thing. Yes? Huh? That's correct. Someone who drinks alcohol, his prayer is not accepted for 40 days. That's correct. But he still has to pray. He still has to pray. Next, highly confirmed sunnah is that after Fatiha, in the first two rak'ahs, is to recite at least an ayah or part of an ayah. Even part of an ayah. Okay? So what is the minimum of recitation of Quran that you have to recite after Surah Al-Fatiha? At least an ayah or part of an ayah. Okay? What is the shortest ayah of the Quran? Huh? No, ayah. What's the shortest ayah of Quran? Ar-Rahman? No. Sad. Qaf? Noon? Alright, so that's the shortest ayah. Okay? Alright, the next sunnah, the sunnah is that while you're reciting, that you don't lean. Right? It becomes a sunnah. So you're definitely not allowed to lean while reciting Fatiha. Okay? But if the recitation becomes long, it is highly recommended to not lean, right, while you're listening or reciting the next surah. You had a question? Yeah. The Hanafi opinion? I don't know. I think it's 3 verses. Hanafi opinion is 3 verses because Surah Al-Kawthar is 3 verses. Yeah. Yeah. the surah is only in the first 2 rakahs of the prayer. That's it. All right, next, recommended. Okay. Now these recommendations, by the way, are not the type of recommendations that you can abandon in the prayer. If you miss one of these recommendations, you have to pray sahu. So these are not like any other recommendations. The next one is that a person has to be silent when it's silent and aloud when it's aloud. And as any Muslim child knows, right? I mean, I would hope they know, that the out loud is only select ayahs at times. That is the 2 rakahs of Fajr, the first 2 of Maghrib, and the first 2 of Isha, making a total of 6 out of 17 rakahs are allowed. Okay? No, that's the Sunnas. We're talking about just the Fajr. 6 out of 17 rakahs, right, are allowed. Now, what is the baseline minimum of the definition of allowed? So that if I come home late at night and I didn't pray Isha, and you come in and your mom and dad are sleeping and trying to sleep and they're getting old and they sleep early, right? And now I want to be pious and I'm reciting loud and waking everyone up. No, because I'm trying to be pious. We're telling them you're trying to be ignorant, right? Because that's not what allowed means. Allowed is that you can hear yourself. That's it. The minimum of being allowed is that you can hear yourself. That's it. That's what allowed means. Okay? So that you recite, so that you don't have to recite to wake people up. You know that people, it's makruh. It's highly makruh and even considered like a minor sin to bother someone sleeping. I mean, we have an amazing deen. To bother someone who's sleeping, to wake them up. So much so that the Prophet was sleeping and he had a garment. He woke up, a kitten had walked in and fell asleep on his garment, that he had to go for salah. He ripped his garment and went to pray. That he ripped his garment in preference to waking up a kitten from sleeping. Imagine that a human being. The only time that a human being should be woken up is for salah, basically. And even that has to be done gently. Obviously, you have to wake him up for school, right? And that's going to stop. There's going to be time I'm not waking up no kids, right? You wake yourself up. What is this? I mean, we spoon feed the kids so badly. It's unbelievable. I know parents, they wake up their high school kids and make them a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. What? You're in high school, I'm sleeping, right? You gotta wait, you can't even wake up anymore. That's unbelievable. Don't forget your jacket. He's in high school. Don't forget your jacket. They go out, they get cold, they get sick, they'll never forget their jacket again. I gave the khutbah today. لَسْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِمُسَيْطِرٍ مَا أَنْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِوَكِيلٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you don't have to control them, right? This is humans in general. You're not responsible to a certain level. The moms give themselves a headache. They give themselves a headache. They overdo it, right? And there are some people, they so overdo it, it's unbelievable. The kid will never learn from experience. The kid, a ball hits his head, okay, no more balls, right? All right, the kid trips, all right, no more walking. What is this? They just want to stop. Why don't you just put the kid in a bubble, right? So nothing touches him. They're to an extreme. So when you wake someone up for anything, it must be done very gently, by whispering. By whispering. Once, then wait. Then a second time, then wait. Then a third time. Very gently, okay? And when they say this hadith, which is like an exaggeration, that if someone's getting up for night prayers, wake them up with water. And there are some ignorant people, wallahi. The worst, you want to know what the worst combination is? Someone who's trying to be pious, and then he gets a book of hadith, and he tries to practice it. You know what that's like? Someone who gets Grey's Anatomy, and takes another person and tries to do surgery on him. And then's looking at the book, right? And cutting. So I knew a guy, he used to go around to try to be pious, and pour water on the faces of his household for Fajr. What do you think they're going to think about the prayer at that point? They're going to hate it, right? So what does it mean? The Prophet ﷺ said that the best of husband and wife is that they wake up for night prayers, let alone Fajr, night prayers, and that if he doesn't get up, she puts water on his face to wake him up, and if she doesn't wake up, he does the same thing to her. That's number one. They're talking about night prayers. That means these people are so pious to begin with that they're praying night prayers. So forget Fajr, night prayers. Secondly, it means, number two, these people are in the desert. The water's going to be warm and the temperature's hot. Water is not going to bother me in the desert. That's number one. Number two. Number three, it's literally a sprinkle, right? A sprinkle on someone's forehead or on someone's foot. People don't realize how gentle the Prophet, peace be upon him, was, right? They don't realize how gentle he was. And the way the Prophet taught people who were sleeping is a sign of how gentle he was. And if you want to be hated in your house, bother people who sleep. If you want to be hated. And people will go their entire lifetime like waking people up in the house in a rude and nasty way, right? Then wondering why, like, people don't like you, right? Because you're not nice to have around. This very small thing is a big deal, okay? All right.
If you put, say it's salah where you have the recitation allowed, but you forget, so you have to do the
So, yeah. If you miss the allowed and the silent, you have to do sahu. Now, next point. What is the threshold and the meaning when we say pray silently. The meaning is no voice, but movement of the tongue. Your lips and your tongue and your teeth are moving. Silently does not mean in your head. Silently means the lips, the tongue, and the mouth and the jaws are moving without voice. Okay? That is the meaning of silently. Okay? From the ignorance of people, is praying aloud so that you can't even think, concentrate. You hear all his dua. You hear everything. You know his family problems from his dua, right? Next. All of the takbir and Sami Allahu liman hamida beyond the first takbir is a sunnah mu'akkada, confirmed sunnah. So all the saying of Allahu Akbar and Sami Allahu liman hamida is sunnah, okay? Except the first one and the last one. Allahu Akbar and Assalamu alaikum are the obligations, everything else is sunnah. And if you're praying alone, you say Sami Allahu liman hamida and you say Rabbana lakal hamd. If you are the imam, you say Sami Allahu liman hamida, that's it. If you are the follower, the ma'mum, you say Allahumma Rabbana lakal hamd, and that's it. So that's how it works. And the reason is that it was Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu who said that he arrived right before the Prophet made ruku'. So in ruku' he said alhamdulillah that he was able to catch the rak'ah with the Prophet, peace be upon him. Allah revealed to the Prophet that utterance of alhamdulillah was so sincere, it reached Allah directly. So the Prophet rose and he said, Sami Allahu liman hamid. Allah heard the one who thanked him. When Abu Bakr heard that, he said, Allahumma Rabbana lakal hamd. Alright, he thanked him again. And just from that one incident, it became a sunnah for us. Okay? To say, Sami Allahu liman hamida, Allahumma Rabbana lakal hamd. Alright? Question? Yep. Alright. When does a person move when the imam makes a statement? You move after he's made a statement. If you move with him, it's acceptable. But it is highly preferable to wait, okay, until he finishes his statement. And if you are the imam, then you can move while you're making your statement. Okay. Alright? Now, all of what we've said so far is specific for the obligatory prayers. So for sunnah prayers, there's no adhan, no iqamah. For sunnah prayers, whether you say aloud or silently, it doesn't matter. Right? For sunnah prayers, whether you lean or sit down or stand up, doesn't matter. And it is recommended, some people say, that the sunnah prayers of the evening be said aloud, and the sunnah prayers of the daytime be said silently. Okay? All of this, right, are all related to the obligatory prayers, not the recommended prayers. Next. The first, the tashahhud, al-awwal, okay, and the tashahhud al-thani. There are two tashahuds in every salah, except Salat al-Fajr. And the part of it which is to be said, that must be said in the tashahhud, is the first half, the greeting. What is the origin of the tashahhud? What is at-tahiyyatu lillah? There are different also siyaq, there are different expressions of how to say the tashahhud. At-tahiyyatu lillah, zakiyatu lillah, salawatu at-tayyibatu lillah. And it continues. Tahiyyatu lillah, salawatu at-tayyibatu lillah. Different expressions of the tashahhud that are all valid, same meaning, and they come in different from different sahaba. Okay? The origin of the tahiyyah is that this is what the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the mi'raj to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Allah elevated the Messenger to the highest level that any human being has attained or will ever attain in this life, is the mi'raj. The Isra is the journey to Jerusalem, and the mi'raj is the journey to the heavens. Right? And we are people who believe that Allah creates in two ways. By cause and effect, that we all know. Right? Drop something and it falls, cause and effect. Or kun fayakun, be and it is. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we believe in karamat and mu'jizat. We don't believe that Allah is limited by the physical rules of nature. If He wishes to take His Prophet to the heavens in a blink of an eye and bring him back, He can do so. So much so that the Prophet went to Jerusalem and to the Mi'raj. On his way, a jug had spilled. On his way, he had just seen from the corner of his eye, a jug spilled. He went, he did all the Isra and met all the prophets in Jerusalem. Then went to the Mi'raj. He went first to the grave, then went to the grave of Moses, the birthplace of Jesus. Then went to the Mi'raj and all the heavens and met all the prophets there a second time. And then he spoke to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala directly. And then he came back. When he came back, the water was still coming out of the jug. And when he went to his bed, it was still warm. All of that happened to his physical person in the blink of an eye. And we believe that. That's part of our belief. So in the Mi'raj, when he met Allah subhanahu, when he spoke to Allah Azza wa Jalla directly, these are the words he uttered. So when we pray and then do the tahiyyah, that is what we're mimicking. What the Prophet said to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It becomes now sunnah to, in the last rak'ah of every salah, to recite some other dua. Most recommended is the Salat Ibrahimiyya. So the tahiyyah, tahiyyatu lillah, zakiyatu lillah, salawatu tayyibatu lillah, assalamu alayka ayyuha nabiyyu rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, assalamu alayna wa ala ibadillah as-salihin. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wahdahu la sharika lahu, ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. That's the tahiyyah. And then the Salat Ibrahimiyya, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. بارك على محمد وعلى كما صليت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى محمد كما باركت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم في العالمين انك حميد مجيد. And for this too there are different siyaq expressions. This becomes a sunnah. And then it becomes a sunnah to seek protection from the fitna of this life and the next, the fitna of the grave and the fitna of Masih ad-Dajjal, the Antichrist. Okay. Now the tashahhud is such a sunnah that if it's missed, it has to be made up. It has to be made up in 2 rak'ahs after 2 sajdas after you salamed out, and then you do your tahiyyah again, then salam out again. We'll cover that. That is called sujood as-sahw. We have to cover that another time. Okay. There are a couple more, but we have to stop here for time. We'll take any questions that you may have, or yeah. When you miss a couple rak'ahs, you have to keep the order when it comes to sitting down. So if you joined in, no matter what was happening, whether they sat down or not, that's your first rak'ah. You will always owe, let's say it's Aisha, right? You'll always owe sitting down in the second and fourth. Right? Second and fourth, you'll owe it. Doesn't matter what your first was. Yeah. Yeah. You just have to alternate. Yeah. It has to be second and fourth. Yeah. Or second and third for Maghrib. Yep.